Ernest Gonzales was born and raised in San Antonio. He is a STEM educator for SAISD, and if you don't know what STEM is, I'm really surprised that you're here. He's an electronic music producer and DJ. He is a member of the San Antonio Cultural Advisory Board representing District 1. Please give a warm welcome for Ernest Gonzales!
Hello. I guess this thing's ready to go, right? Space bar it? All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I do make music, and instead of talking about my music, I thought I would nerd out a little bit and talk to you about music in general. So here's my definition for it. Music, I see it as a collage set to time, a form of art that manipulates time and sound as the medium, and hopefully elicits some kind of response from the listener. I thought it'd be good to talk about what is sound. It's actually a cycle of waves of pressure, vibration that travels through the air, and it can travel through different types of mediums like gas and liquids. The diagram that you see here represents a cycle of waves. Let's see, line A represents the amplitude, so that's kind of how loud a sound is. Line B represents this one cycle. The number of times that it vibrates per second, that's called frequency. I'll talk about that on the next slide here. So here's an example of how you could, what a frequency, different frequencies might look like. If you look up here and you see the ones that are closer together, those are the ones vibrating faster, so those sounds would be higher like this, high pitch. The ones in the middle, spaced out, those would be lower sounds like bass sounds. Let's see, range of frequency. Humans can't hear the full spectrum of sound. We only hear roughly about 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Elephants use infrasound, something lower that we can't hear. Bats use ultrasound to navigate through the darkness. This is an example of some different frequencies. Luckily, it didn't go all the way through, otherwise I would have been freaked out. But this one, I put this one in there because I wanted to let you know that sound travels through air differently. Higher pitched sounds, they vibrate faster, but they lose their energy quicker, so you don't tend to hear those, whereas low sounds that aren't vibrating as fast, those travel through the air easily. That's why when people drive by, all you hear is just the bass. Like, it can travel through walls and everything like that. This, I wanted to put this one in there to talk about the Doppler effect. I probably won't have enough time, but just know that when you hear an ice cream truck, it's like ding, 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 as it passes you. So. This one is about tempo. The word tempo, just, I'll tell you this, R&B music is roughly about 60 beats per minute. Hip-hop music is 90 beats per minute, roughly. House music, 120 beats per minute. Drum and bass, awesome fast electronic music, 160 beats per minute. This is not barbacoa. This is inside of you. It does look delicious to eat though, right? Like if you barbecued it. Sorry, that might be, yeah, never mind. You can manipulate the heart into beating faster with faster music. That's what that slide was about. Now, these next 10 slides, I'm going to talk about music as a form of collage. This is the program that I use to make music. I'm basically layering sounds in there. Those are all different beats and whatnot. You can record from records. You can make your own sounds from synthesizers. This is a piece of equipment that you could use to make music. It's made by a company called Akai. It's an MPC is what they're called. You can record sounds into it. And then each of the little pads can be a different sound effect, and you make music by just tapping out the different pads there. I don't use this though. I just do everything on computer. I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of sampling, basically recording a piece of music and using it to make new music. It goes back to the 60s with experimental artists that were using tapes and cutting up the cassette and taping them together into different pieces, and also people using records, just moving records around. Here's some artists back from the 70s. These guys would find pieces of records that had no music other than just the drum loop, and you would use 2 records and have one beat go, and then as soon as that one ends, go to that record and go back and forth to create loops with records. This is an example of one of the more famous drum breaks. It's used in tons of music. You play it faster and use that for, drum and bass. This is the way it sounds originally. Here's another guy. You might know him. This drum beat is used in probably 5,000 songs or something. One of my favorite groups is Daft Punk, the guys in the middle. They've built their career off of sampling music. If you hear the originals, you'll be like, whoa, that's a Daft Punk song, but it's not. So I put in here some of these other guys. Daft Punk sampled them. Kanye West sampled Daft Punk. It's a sample of a sample of a sample. It's weird. So when thinking of a sample in terms of art, comparisons can be made to the arguments of originality and postmodernism. One visual artist that dealt with this topic was Sherry Levine. She would just take pictures of other people's pictures. I kind of see remixing and sampling as something very similar to that. I see sampling as a form of appropriation. It's defined as the use of a pre-existing image or an object, pulling a source to present it in a different context. And I think that when you do that, that's when something new is created. This is one of my favorite examples of it. I love it. Cookie Monster. So in conclusion, I think most things in life are samples. All music and art is sampled. Culture itself is a remix. The concept of samples is what has allowed cultures to mesh. Christianity, to me, is a religious remix based on pagan religions and stuff like that.
All right. Hang on, don't leave, Ernest. This is the other part of PechaKucha that we've developed here is I get to debrief and ask embarrassing personal questions of people after they do this that the audience might want to know. First of all, where do you teach and what kinds of classes? You can go ahead.
I teach at Irving Academy on the west side. It's a middle school. I teach crazy 7th and 8th graders. Gotta love middle school. And in case you happen to not know what STEM is, it's science, technology, engineering, and math.
And now, when you teach also you are a musician. Do you perform, and where do you perform? What kind of music? Where can people hear you?
Thanks for asking that question. You can see me DJ Friday, actually. Y'all are all invited. I DJ all across the United States. I've played all up the West Coast, East Coast, and sometimes here in San Antonio. So Friday at Limelight.
And how would one say if one wanted to reduce the echo in this building?
You could put some fabric up on the walls to dampen the amount of reverberation happening here.
Would that pull in the amplitude or the frequency? Would it modulate the rhythmic beating of my heart to
it would
the brain
dampen
stem?
it. Dampen it.
And now, is this the kind of thing that you give? Do you give this kind of presentation to students? You do like this stuff at school?
Actually, when you guys invited me to do it, I forced my students to do these presentations as well.
Give it up for Ernest Gonzales.